following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast. The football season is finally here. We're talking college football, Major League Baseball, and a little bit of NFL news as well. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast.
From Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network, you're listening to the Sports Stove Podcast with your host, Vince Stover.
Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up in me?
Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Podcast, presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com and use the code STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. And I just got some more jerky this week. I've already devoured 2 bags, and I got 2 more to go. My wife stole half of my bootleg and barbecue last night, but that's okay. Sharing is caring. So make sure you get yourself some jerky, get enough to share because people are going to want it. It's, again, righteousfelon.com. The promo code is STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. Well, welcome into another week here at the Sports Stove Podcast. I'm your host, Vince Stover. I am joined by my dad, Dale Stover. Dad, how you doing?
Good, doing good. Like you said, football season's here, so a lot going on.
There's college football games going on right now as we speak. Then, of course, the whole weekend. We got college football going on this weekend. And then next week will be the NFL start next Thursday, a week from tonight, game 1 of the NFL season. Friday night, game 1 for the Green Bay Packers. They're down in Brazil, and excited about that game. And just plenty of sports things going on. Baseball season is winding down and some great races there. NASCAR has one race left in the regular season before they head into the playoffs as well. And so plenty of things happening. Tonight, our focus is going to be college football, Major League Baseball, and we'll talk some NFL news as well, or thoughts on some of the starting jobs won and those kinds of things also. Dad, I know also EKU, they kick off their week or their season on Saturday night against Mississippi State. If you missed the local hour this past week, go back and check it out. It's on the Sports Stove YouTube channel or wherever you listen to the podcast, the Sports Stove Podcast. It's there as well. Me and Ryan Jackson previewed that game, plus talked with a couple of specialists, long snapper and punter as well. Fun episode. And next week we'll be recapping Mississippi State and previewing Western Kentucky there also. All right, Dad, let's go in. First of all, are there any games tonight that you were excited about or intrigued by, I guess, going into the college football season here tonight?
Not really tonight. I mean, most of the games, we'll talk about some here where there are some good matchups. But week 1 is not necessarily a lot of good matchups. It is, to be fun to watch some of the good teams. And, of course, inevitably there could be an upset here or there. But, tonight, again, I haven't watched a lot, but, I keep up on how the games go tonight, but I would think the favorites would win for the most part.
It's an intriguing night of football. To me, the Colorado's intriguing. Of course, Coach Prime and everything that goes on with him and around him. They're playing one of the top FCS schools out there in North Dakota State. And I feel like that's a dangerous play for Colorado. I don't know. I know the thought is that Colorado will be decent this year and that, Shedeur Sanders is going to be a first round draft pick and all this kind of stuff. But North Dakota State's not your average FCS school, and Colorado's not, at least to this point, has not proven that they're a top FBS school. So I don't know. To me, Colorado's an 11.5-point favorite. And if I was a betting man, I think I would take North Dakota State in that one because 11.5 points. I mean, North Dakota State is consistently really, really good football team. How confident are you that Colorado is good enough to dominate the game against North Dakota State?
Well, like you said, North Dakota State is one of the dominant teams. there in that division. From there, even though South Dakota State has won the last couple of years, but North Dakota State have some good players. Normally, though, if you get a Power 5 team, there's just a big difference in physical, size and talent. But again, North Dakota State, they'll be prepared for this. But I don't know that I would expect an upset here, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will see, I guess. Of the early games going on, of course, a lot of people will listen to this after not watching live, so all these games will be final. So I don't want to spend too much time on them. But right now, Wake Forest is losing to NC A&T, North Carolina A&T. So that's kind of wild. Outside of that, it feels like everyone else is doing what they're supposed to be doing. NC State's down 7-0 to West Carolina. That's a little bit of a surprise considering that NC State's actually ranked. They're a 24 ranked team. Outside of that, other games are getting ready to kick off here that I'll be trying to catch some of here in the next hour. North Carolina and Minnesota. They're playing a late game on Fox, and Minnesota is a small underdog at home. But again, these are two teams that, we never know a whole lot about because they're not top teams in their conference. Yet at the same time, there is a little bit of history there to some degree in North Carolina with a great coach, and they've done some good things over the last couple of years too. To me, that's the game kind of to keep an eye on tonight, I think, as far as the major conference teams that are competing against each other, North Carolina, Minnesota. At the very least, I think it's intriguing.
Yes, I think, like I said, that was the one that did kind of catch my eye when I was looking through the games because it is two, major conference teams playing. And I've always kept up with the Big Ten. So to me, Minnesota, I would, they can have a very good competitive football team. And again, North Carolina, has been better in the last few years, but they're not ranked, this year. So that probably, could be a fun game to watch.
Well, on Saturday we saw a top 10 team get taken down in Ireland. Georgia Tech beats Florida State. There's not a worse way to start a year for Florida State. They've got a quarterback who's now on his third college. Was supposed to be this great quarterback, did well last year at Oregon State, but never really succeeded at Clemson. Comes to Florida State. Now he gets beat in his first game against an unranked Georgia Tech team, which has a lot of upside. And a lot of people were kind of in on this Georgia Tech team coming into this season. Florida State to me was always questionable being ranked number 10. And, they have talent, but you got to see what happens. And it wasn't pretty on Saturday. They only lost by 3. So it wasn't like they got blown out or anything, but my goodness, what a horrible way to start the year for Florida State.
Yeah, it really is. And they've got I think they have a decent game this week, don't they? I don't have that right in front of me, but,
who, Georgia Tech or Florida State?
Do what?
Which team are you talking about?
Florida State.
Okay. Yeah. So Florida State, they've got no, they don't have Memphis. They're Boston College this week.
Boston College, yeah. Boston College is not ranked, but again, it's another conference game, and they've lost one conference game already. So I watched a little bit, especially the end of the Georgia Tech Florida State game, and that was a very exciting game. So again, I don't know much about Georgia Tech, so I don't know if this was just a wild upset or if they're going to be, a little bit of competition in the ACC. We'll see. But like you said, a tough way to start the season for Florida State and a great way to start the season for Georgia Tech. So yeah. I think college football is going to be a lot of fun this year. I think with the conferences changing, there's going to be more, a little more parity or a little more good games, at least from there, because you got more good teams playing each other in the conference. So we'll see.
Your Illini, they kick off tonight at 9:00 against Eastern Illinois. Illinois is a 28.5-point favorite in that one. But I don't know. I'm guessing you don't know a ton about the Illini coming into the season. Maybe you do. Any thoughts on Illinois' kickoff tonight?
No, I've read up a little bit on them, and they don't have real high expectations. this year, where they have had the last couple years. So again, hopefully they won't have any trouble with Eastern Illinois, but we will see from there. No, I don't have a lot of insight on them. So
I saw an interesting hire today. Jack Del Rio joins Wisconsin. He's going to be a consultant or whatever for the Wisconsin Badgers, and he'll help on both sides of the ball and be there to help out the head coach there, Fickle. So I thought that was an intriguing hire here right as the season's getting ready to start. I really like Jack Del Rio. I think that's a pretty cool addition for Wisconsin. They kick off tomorrow night against Western Michigan. Friday night games, there's not a whole lot of, there are 0 games on Friday night that are super appealing, in my opinion, at the very least. But let's get to just as a whole coming into the weekend, week 1, officially week 1 now. The game between Georgia and Clemson, Dad, really has my attention because I think Clemson's going to be good this year. And obviously Georgia's good. I don't think there's any question about that. But a noon kickoff, Georgia 12.5-point favorites. I just think that game's going to be a lot closer than 12.5 points, in my opinion, because I think Clemson, this is kind of a prove it year for Dabo Swinney. He's kind of refused to dabble in the transfer portal. He's going to develop guys and things like that. If it's going to work, it has to be this year, or else he's going to have to change his methods. Thoughts on Georgia and Clemson coming into the weekend?
Yeah, that would be a very interesting game to watch. Georgia has just become, such a powerhouse. And of course, they have a good coach. Of course, I really like Dabo Swinney also there. So with Clemson, this will be a big year, no doubt about it. From there, I think he could have the ship righted. I think one thing that really hurt a couple of years ago was he had kept the same assistant coaches for a long time and then lost both his offensive and defensive coordinator in the same year. And I think that obviously had some effect. And of course, the portal has thrown everything off with people from there, and it would have affected Clemson also. But he recruits a certain type of player, and I think he will still always draw those kind of players. So this would be a tremendous upset for them. Even if they play well, I think that will be a help. But that's definitely one of the marquee games. You have two teams. There's been times when this game would be number 1 against number 2. It's not that way this year, but I'd like to see Clemson do well. So,
a couple other ranked versus ranked games. Notre Dame and Texas A&M will face off on Saturday. Sunday, USC and LSU will face off as well. I think both of those games are intriguing to me because, again, week 1 is where we start to get to know some of these guys because unless you're a fan of that team, there's a lot of things you don't know about these teams. And so A&M and Notre Dame and USC LSU should both, I think, be really, really good games, and intrigued to see what Notre Dame does this year. They're ranked number 7, and it's still kind of that buying into the new coach and all that kind of stuff from last year. I'm intrigued. I'm always down on A&M. I always feel like they get overhyped. Well, this year they're at number 20, so maybe they're not being overhyped this year, and maybe that makes a difference for them.
Yeah, that could be a really tough game for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's ranked, really well. But again, this is one for A&M. If they're going to have a good year, this is quite a way to start for them. So I think that would be very interesting. If Notre Dame comes out and dominates this game, then it'll be the Notre Dame you're kind of been hearing about. So, we will see from there. But that should be a very good game.
What other games are catching your eye here for week 1?
Well, just because of the two names, Miami and Florida. Florida is not ranked this year. Miami is. And a lot of times Miami, there's a lot of hype, and they've fallen flat early. So this will be a big game. This is at Florida, I believe. And so Miami, they can really prove themselves a little bit with a win over Florida. And again, Florida, Florida's always going to have good players. So I haven't kept up a lot on them, but we will see. I think that's an interesting game. Penn State should handle West Virginia, but that's kind of an interesting matchup too. Again, just, two names there. I think a lot of these ranked teams, the question will be, are they ready to play? Even the teams, like Ohio State and other teams that aren't playing good teams, will they come out just ready to go? And if they do, then everything's set. If they struggle, then, that'll make a little bit of difference there. Same way with Tennessee and Chattanooga, just several games like that. Be interesting to see how they play.
Yeah, when you get these teams that are, 30-plus point favorites, you want to see them just come out and dominate. And when they struggle to get things going and they end up winning by 20, 22, or 25, you go, yeah, but they were supposed to win by 35, that kind of a thing for sure. I got two other games I'm intrigued by on Saturday. Oklahoma State's hosting South Dakota State. So we've already brought up North Dakota State against Colorado, who currently leads, by the way, 3-0 over Colorado. San Diego State travels to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's only a 9.5-point favorite in this game. Oklahoma State obviously had a great year last year. They're one of the better teams in the Big 12. But again, week one, you say, man, it's an FCS team, but is it? They seem like the most FBS ready school in the FCS. So that game is intriguing to me. And the other one is Alabama and Western Kentucky. I don't think Western Kentucky comes in and beats Alabama, but Western Kentucky's supposed to be really good this year. Alabama's got a new coach for the first time in decades, and I'm kind of down on Alabama this year. I think they're a 3-loss team, and so I'm intrigued to see how that game goes. Alabama's a 31.5-point favorite. I think if Western can, stay within 2 touchdowns, that'll make me really nervous about Alabama. And honestly, really nervous about Western, considering that EKU plays them the following week. So I'm interested to see that game, how it turns out, what Alabama looks like with the new staff, and how all that one shakes out as well. Any other lower level games or lower level teams you're intrigued to see how well they hold up in week one?
Well, I don't know much about this team, but I know it's a team that sometimes can come out and play, and that's Colorado State. And they're playing Texas. So Texas is one of those teams, again, very highly ranked. So will they come out and just roll over them again? It's at Texas. But I know history would say Colorado State's one of those teams that, sometimes can surprise or play tough there. But, otherwise, I think the favorites should win. We'll just see how they perform.
Yeah. You mentioned it earlier, Florida State and Boston College. For Florida State, they're coming off this massive disappointment in Ireland. Now they're going to be the only top 25 game going on Monday night. This is a holiday weekend. It's going to be Florida State at home against Boston College, coming off this loss. They're 16.5-point favorites. Like, are they going to show up on Monday night and take care of Boston College? Or all of a sudden, are we going to see the downfall of this Florida State program in week number 2? I mean, technically week number 1. With another just embarrassing upset here with Boston College. I don't know enough about any of these teams, honestly, outside of Tennessee and Eastern Kentucky and Kentucky. I don't know a whole lot about these college teams. So I have no idea what Boston College looks like this year. I know that they are supposed to be, improved, but Florida State was supposed to be a top 10 team, and they didn't look like it in week 0. So I don't know. That one's intriguing to me, of course, as well. Any other thoughts on some college football?
No, it'd be, like I said, it'd be fun to keep up with all of them, and even some of the schools, like you said, Eastern Kentucky, Middle Tennessee State, who I kind of follow because I lived in Murfreesboro for many years. They have a brand new coach, came from Vanderbilt. Be interested to see. Again, you would think they can handle Tennessee Tech, but it'd be interesting to see how they start because, again, a new coach and pretty much a new coaching staff. And, of course, with the portal, they have a lot of new players. They have a returning quarterback, which that's always a very positive thing. Yeah. So I'll be interested to keep up a little bit with MTSU also.
Well, they are 23.5-point favorites, so the anticipation is they'll be able to take care of business against Tennessee Tech for sure. I'm watching also the UAC conference, which is what Eastern Kentucky is in. They've already had 2 games played this week. Tarleton State beat McNeese, and then SEMO beat North Alabama. They actually dominated North Alabama this weekend. So North Alabama and Tarleton both in the UAC. There's a UAC game tonight. Southern Utah is facing off against the number 12 ranked team, Utah Utes. And then other than that, it should be an interesting week for the UAC. Tarleton is playing Baylor. So listen, they played last week, but they're playing again this week. They're playing Baylor. I saw another one somewhere in here. Austin Peay's playing Louisville. And so anyways, plenty of fun things going on all around the college football season. And I'm just excited it's here. I'm excited to see it on my TV. And I'll head upstairs when we're done with this program and watch a little bit of it before I go to bed tonight as well. Okay, that's it for college football for now. Let's head over to Major League Baseball, Dad. College football is definitely going to catch the highlight this weekend, but Major League Baseball is winding down. They're getting to that point now where it's all about the playoffs, who can finish strong and who can make the playoffs, especially in these wild card races, because for the most part, the division races, at least half of them are pretty well set, but there is some competition going on as well. So let's start in the National League because this is a little bit more clear. You have the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Brewers leading the division. The Brewers are 9.5 up on the Cubs, and the Cubs stink, so we're not really concerned about them. I will say, though, the Cubs are on a 3-game win streak, so congrats to them. Phillies 5 games up on the Braves, and the Braves have been decimated by injuries throughout this season. It is nuts how many guys have gone down for the Braves. And then the Dodgers 3.5 up on the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks and the Padres keep sniffing like they're going to get there, and then they kind of trickle back a little bit as well. And the Dodgers have had a really good week. So I guess my question is, in the NL West, how do you feel that's going to shake out between the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, and the Padres?
I think it'll end up maybe being close. We get to, especially the last 2 weeks. I think, again, they're through what, 3.5 out, 4.5 out, the Diamondbacks and the Padres. If the Dodgers would go on a little bit of a skid, it wouldn't take much for it to get within a game or 2 games. You would think the Dodgers probably will win that division. But I think either one of the other 2 teams, starting September here, I don't think you can count the other 2 teams out at this point. So the other 2 divisions in the National League should be set, and then we'll just see. But again, you got the Diamondbacks, Padres, and the Dodgers. 2 of those are going to be wild card teams. Yeah. So we'll just see where the other one. And you would think the Braves will hang in there now and be the other one, but that's fluctuated a little bit off and on.
Yeah, so back to the Dodgers. There's about 30 games left in the season, slightly under that. So they're wrapping up with the Orioles tonight. Then the Dodgers play, let's see, I think it's a 4-game series against the Diamondbacks. So that can turn things on its head right there. I mean, that can make things pretty crazy. Then the Dodgers, they get the Angels for 3 games, or actually only 2 games. Then they get the Guardians, who we'll talk about in a minute, the Cubs, the Braves, and the Marlins, the Rockies. Then they get a series against the Padres before closing the season again against the Rockies. So really, those 2 series against the Diamondbacks and the Padres are pretty big for LA. Plus, they got to mix in, along with bad teams, the Braves in there, the Cubs who are playing well, and the Guardians. So generally speaking, it's an easy schedule for the Dodgers the rest of the way. But that being said, there's some important series in that mix as well. When it comes to the Diamondbacks, again, they've got the Giants, they've got the Astros, the Rangers, who are no good, the Brewers, the Rockies, who are no good. Let's see here. They got 2 series against the Brewers, and then San Francisco, who stinks, and they close out the year against San Diego as well. So you just kind of see that the schedules for the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers are kind of similar. There's some good series in there, but also some easy series in there. For the Padres, they got the Rays, the Tigers, the Giants, the Mariners, the Giants again, then the Astros, White Sox, Dodgers, and Diamondbacks to end out their year. So for the Padres, their last 6 games are against the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. So that'll be a big, up until that point, it's a pretty easy schedule for them. But you get to those last 6 games, and that might be an important 6 games for them. That could turn their season around if they're still in it come to that point as well. So, yeah, I'm intrigued by that one. You talk about the wild card. I think the Braves are in. I'm not really worried about them, mainly because you look at the teams that they're ahead of right now. Right now, the Braves hold the last spot in the wild card. They're 3.5 games up on the Mets, and let's face it, the Mets don't scare anybody. They're 5.5 games up on the Cubs, 6.5 up on the Cardinals, 7 up on the Giants, 9.5 up on the Reds. I mean, there just aren't any teams behind the Braves that make you go, oh yeah, that team they're definitely going to be a threat. The Mets are the most threatening of that group, and they're really not that threatening. So I think our 6 teams in the National League are set, but I think the seeding is where we're going to play around with it a little bit. Dodgers, Phillies, Brewers as your division winners, Diamondbacks, Padres, Braves as your wild card. That's the way I see it breaking down at the very least in the National League. In the American League, the AL East will be fun all the way to the end. Yankees and Orioles. Orioles 1 game back right now. They've jumped back and forth as far as who leads the division. Both teams very talented. I trust the Orioles pitching more than I do the Yankees, but I trust the Yankees bats a little bit more than I do the Orioles. So when it's all said and done, and honestly, the Yankees pitching has been better than the Orioles to this point in the season, but I have more confidence in Baltimore. So that race is what it is. In the American League Central, though, Dad, the Guardians still lead, but Kansas City's only a game back, and the Twins are 3.5 back. I just got to think it's going to be the Guardians, but this Royals team has been so impressive. They have scored a ton of runs, and their pitching has been pretty solid too. So what do you feel about the Royals and their possibilities of taking over the AL Central?
Well, we've talked about that this year, and they've stayed right in the hunt all year, and it looks like they have the talent to stay there. The Guardians have made a run a couple times and have stretched it out and got several games ahead, but that's not the case right now. So I would think the Guardians probably will win this, but boy, with 1 game out, and the Twins have been interesting right now. They're not doing well. They're 2-8 in the last 10, but they're only 3.5 out. And at times they've gone on a streak. So I think at least for a couple of weeks, all 3 of these teams will stay close. We'll just see where it ends up. And again, like when you looked at the National League, schedules may have something to do with this. If one of the teams has a really, really hard schedule, then that may make it tough. If they're about even, like I said, the Royals have just been a surprise, but they've got great players. I think it's going to be fun to see them in the playoffs no matter what, and I think they will make the wild card. So
yeah, and I mean, I was wrong on the Royals. I thought they'd be better than last year, but that doesn't say a whole lot. And I did not see them. And even a month ago, me and Kevin talked about it on the Fantasy Baseball Show. I was like, I don't see the Royals hanging in there. I think they're going to fall off. And boy, was I wrong. They're in a series right now with Houston to close out the month of August. They've got the Guardians then in September in a 3-game series. They have the Twins following that one. They have the Yankees following that one. Then they get the Pirates and the Tigers and the Giants and the Nationals to close out the year at the Braves. So if they can survive these next couple series against Houston, against the Yankees, against the Guardians, against the Twins, well, then you're looking at a team that can win the division. That is a tough stretch, though, and there's no doubt about that. The Guardians have been with this team that looked like at one point in this season they were just going to run away with the division. They haven't been able to do it, and it's wild. And they've got the Pirates right now, then the Royals, then the Dodgers, but then they get the White Sox and they get the Rays. They will play the Twins again as well. Then they get the Cardinals, the Reds, and the Astros to close the year. So again, they've got some easy games, but not a completely easy schedule at the same time. So that's intriguing. And then the Twins, the last team that we're talking about in the AL Central right now, they're playing let's see here. They played the Braves tonight and lost. They've lost 4 straight. Now they've got the Blue Jays at home. Then they've got the Rays, the Royals, the Angels, the Reds, the Guardians, the Red Sox, the Mariners, and then the Orioles. So when I look at that schedule, I think it's still the Guardians division to win. But I mean, again, if Kansas City has this nice run here, they got some tough opponents. They can at least split these or win these series. They're going to be sitting pretty there when they get down to the end of the season as well. So if you ask me which team I'm the most confident in, it's still the Guardians. But Kansas City and the fan base at Kansas City, Dad, it may be one of the more underestimated, underappreciated fan bases in all of professional sports. I feel like Royals fans are legit really good fans.
Yes, I think so, and definitely, I'm sure there's just a massive amount of excitement this year with the way they've rebounded. So, fans, the Royal fans definitely will be excited, and I think are the kind of fan base that can be a factor. So,
yeah. In the AL West, Houston 3.5 up. They haven't had a great week, but neither has anybody else really in that division. The Mariners are trying to stay in the hunt for the wild card. I think it's the Astros division to win. But when you look at the wild card right now, you've got whoever wins the East, the Yankees or the Orioles. The other one is clearly in. They're a wild card team. Then you've got whoever wins the Central, the Guardians or the Royals or even the Twins, plus at least one other Central team is going to make the wild card. Then you've got Houston, the only team from the West who's going to make the playoffs. So basically you're fighting between the Twins, the Red Sox, and the Mariners right now as those fighting for that final spot. Twins have it currently, but Boston has had moments this season where they've looked really solid. They need their pitching to step up. It hasn't been great. And Seattle's been the opposite. Their pitching has been good, but their offense has been horrendous. And Julio Rodriguez has been one of the most disappointing players in all of Major League this year. I feel like the Twins seem to be that team that's going to make it kind of by default, because I'm just not sure Seattle and Boston can catch them. But I think Baltimore, obviously Baltimore's in, and I think Kansas City at this point has established themselves as a team that's going to be in the playoffs. So Twins, Red Sox, or Mariners, who do you think gets that final spot?
I think it'll be between the Red Sox and the Twins.
Okay.
The Red Sox have done well, so I wouldn't count them out. Again, depending on their schedule, they may have to play the Orioles and the Yankees some yet, or maybe they're about done with those series. We will see. But again, I think the Twins are going to stay in the hunt even in their division. So I think they have enough of a lead that, Boston's going to have to really play well to get there. But either one of those teams would be fun to see in the playoffs, I think, either Boston or the Twins.
So their offense is exactly the same. They've scored 646 runs. Boston has scored 3 more runs than Minnesota. But the Twins' pitching has been far better than Boston's. And when you look at just the competition that they've played, the Red Sox are 31-46 against teams that are better than 500. The Twins aren't much better, but they are better, 37-48, about 6 games better than Boston against good teams. So again, I think Minnesota is the one that's going to pull it out when it's all said and done, but I don't think they're a legit threat either in the American League. As a matter of fact, I've said Houston has to be respected. So I think those 3 division winners and the second place East team are the only 4 you really have to worry about in the playoffs. But I'll just keep doubting the Royals, so they at least can they'll say, well, we listened to the Sports Stove, he doubted us, and that's why we won everything. And so I'll take full credit for that down the road as well. Any other baseball thoughts here tonight?
No, like I said, I've heard you guys say on the baseball show, which is true, a few weeks ago, it looked like, the playoffs were all set, even especially divisions were all set. But now you have division races, so that's exciting. Right. And you're going to definitely have wild card races go down to the end. And I think really when you look at the teams, I don't know that any team has been so dominant that when you get into playoffs, you say, well, nobody can beat them. I think it could be a little bit of a wide open playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess we still have a whole month of games, so we'll see how it shakes out when it's all said and done there. All right, let's transition over to the NFL, Dad. Brandon Ayuk signs his extension today, 4-year contract, committed into the 49ers team. That just kind of solidifies the weapons there in San Francisco. And we already knew they were going to be good, but I had a little bit of hope that Ayuk would get traded just so San Francisco would take a little bit of a hit. But he signs, so he's there. They still, of course, have Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle there as well. So that's a team that continues to be stacked. Any thoughts on the Ayuk signing?
No, I wasn't real sure how that was going to go because these wide receivers, everybody has kind of waited, and then they give the really big money and everybody wants more, the next time. So I guess the last one is Jamar Chase that's coming up. So we will see. But yeah, Ayuk, definitely will, that does solidify all the weapons there at San Francisco that they've had. And, we'll see these guys that have held out. I think most of them have been, what they call hold-ins. In other words, they've been there, some still doing things and, being in the system, just not physically. And we are only a week away, from the game. So exactly how everybody's going to – I don't know if the issue would be as big about fitting in to the system as it might be conditioning and injuries. Because a lot of times when these guys sit out and then all of a sudden aren't in great condition, that's when you get some of these soft tissue injuries and stuff like that. So we'll see these guys hold out if they can jump right in or how the teams handle them.
Well, and I think that might be what's going on behind the scenes, Dad. These guys, they're still there in the building. They're still in the meetings, and they're still around the strength coach and stuff like that. I think that they're probably doing that on purpose to help avoid these injuries when they do come back as well. But I don't know. We will see. Let's talk about some quarterbacks. We'll just kind of run through the jobs that got won. New England Patriots announced Jacoby Brissett will be the starting quarterback. A lot of people thought Drake May looked way better than Jacoby Brissett here. But, Dad, something I heard today that I hadn't thought about is the GM in New England now is Elliott Wolf, who was in the Packers system for a long time and saw the benefit of having a quarterback sit as a rookie. Do you think Jacoby Brissett is here for the whole season, or do you think, are we talking 4, 6, 8 games before we see Drake May in for the New England Patriots?
I don't think he'll be in for the whole season because I think you will see Drake May again. I don't think New England is going to have the kind of season, where a quarterback necessarily will dominate there. But I do think it's wise on a team like New England to not start May right away, especially a team, again, with New England that could struggle a little bit. So I think for him to have time to adjust, but I would be surprised if maybe by midseason or at least the end of the year, Drake May is not definitely the quarterback in New England.
Yeah, and Brissett's actually a little beat up as well, so it could be an injury that causes us to see Drake May early in the year also. Pittsburgh Steelers announced Russell Wilson has won the job over Justin Fields. Not a huge surprise. It kind of always felt like Wilson would get the first crack at it, and if he's not good enough, then Fields will get a crack at it. Any thoughts, though, on that quarterback situation in Pittsburgh?
Just watching a little bit of the preseason, I thought maybe Fields would win that job. But, again, Wilson, it makes a little more sense, I think. We talked about this. They've got 2 good quarterbacks, but to me, they're too even. That's just not going to work. Somewhere down the line. Now, again, if Russell Wilson comes out, and I like Russell Wilson, but at this point of his career, I think Fields has a lot more upside, as they go down the line. So we will see. But if Russell Wilson comes out and they start winning games, then everything's good.
Right.
With Fields, it's not quite like we talk about the rookies. Well, it's good to sit and watch for a while. I think he just needs a new start, and they've got weapons at Pittsburgh. So I thought maybe, but again, I think they're committed a little bit with this experiment with Wilson, and we'll see. But if he struggles, I think if Fields gets a shot, I don't think Fields will give up the position.
Okay. We talked about Bo Nix last week, so we won't spend any time on that one. Let's see here. Washington Commanders are going with the rookie. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. Minnesota is stuck with Sam Darnold because their rookie got hurt and is out for the year. Let's see here. There weren't really a whole lot of battles going on in the NFC. Atlanta trades Tyler Heineke away to the Chargers. That was an interesting trade that happened this week as well for a 7th-round pick. Conditional, could go up to a 6th-round pick. I guess, yeah, that's pretty much all that the quarterback battles were in the NFC. Let's talk about, though, my friend Matthew Jackson. He did not make the cut for the Titans this year. They signed 2 new safeties. He loses out. He's the last man out, basically, in Tennessee. He signs with Jacksonville's practice squad. So shout out to Matt Jackson. Another opportunity in Jacksonville. I think we'll see him on the active roster pretty quick there in Jacksonville. He is a special teams stud, and he's going to get his playing time there as well. Any surprises when it comes to the rosters for you?
No, there wasn't a lot of big surprises there. Again, we'll see how things go on. Quarterbacks, started out, Cleveland kept several, and then I think they did cut one, didn't they, today or yesterday? And
did they?
So, we will see from there. Where did they end up with quarterback at Seattle?
It's Geno Smith.
Okay. So he's healthy and everything's ready to go there. Okay. From there, of course, the Packers picked up what they hope is a number 2 quarterback with Malik Willis from the Titans. That'll be kind of an interesting experiment. Personally, I think that may go real well, but not everybody in the Packer world understands that, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we never have to see him on the field, so it won't matter how good he is. But, yeah, who knows? So next week we get into our picks each week. On the show, we'll pick 6 games, but we do have a weekly picks contest that you can sign up for. Go to our Twitter page at Sports Stove. I'll need to reshare it or pin it probably up there as well. But we do have a thing where you can sign up and you can pick each week against us as well as other members of the Belly Up Sports community and other just people all around the world. So get in on that. I will need to get that tagged. I will have that on my Twitter page, and so you can check it out there, and we will make sure that you can get in there as well. So let's see here. Outside of that, NFL wise, next week we really dive headfirst into the NFL there. Dad, your initial thoughts on Green Bay and Philadelphia on Friday night next week?
Again, 2 very good teams playing. I think it'll be a good start. I think Green Bay will be ready to go. So we'll see. Philadelphia has had some injuries this week and in practice, which won't help them, but I don't know if it's anything too major from there. Of course, Green Bay it'd be very interesting, not just being Packer fans, but you got the new defense, the new defensive coordinator, a lot of things there. So I think the Packers will be ready to play. And I'm sure Philadelphia will be too. I think it could be a very good football game. So we'll see.
Yeah, it should be. NASCAR has their final race of the season in Darlington. And basically there's 3-point spots available. So if we get a new winner, that'll knock somebody else out. But don't really anticipate a new winner this year. So it's really going to come down to points. And obviously it could come down to everything with a new winner as well. that we saw last week. We were anticipating it last week, though, and now we're sitting there looking at Martin Truex, Ty Gibbs, and Chris Buescher. Currently, the last three in, Bubba Wallace and Ross Chastain are 21 and 27 points back from those racers. So we'll keep our eye out on that in Darlington. Dad, do you think that the final three, Truex, Gibbs, and Buescher, are going to be the three that make it in, or do you think Wallace or Chastain jumps up and grabs a spot?
I would think those three would hold it, but again, 21, 27 points, that's not too much. I mean, they could jump up there, and of course, one guy gets knocked out of the race, and then that
Right.
changes a lot of things. So I don't know what the philosophy will be, where people will be trying to take anybody out, or where everybody just be racing, to see where they're at. I think, both Bubba Wallace and Chastain have had good years and have been competitive right there. I like Buescher, and I think him getting in would be a good thing. Truex looks like, he's pretty well set. Ty Gibbs has been pretty solid all year. I think it'd be surprising if he didn't make it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to take someone out on purpose. I got this feeling that Ross Chastain gets in, and I don't know if that means that he wins the race or if he's able to just one of these guys, Buescher or Gibbs. I think it would have to be Buescher more so than Gibbs, but wrecks out early and then Chastain scores well and gets in. That's kind of my thought right now. But it's set up for Truex, Gibbs, and Buescher to be those final three for sure. Something tragic would have to happen to one of those guys. And like I said, I mean, I think Chastain could win the race. I think Kyle Busch could win the race. I think Chase Briscoe could win the race. And maybe even throw in Todd Gilliland for the fun of it. He's had a really good season as well. I just don't think we're going to have a massive surprise win. I don't think we're going to have one of those like we saw with Harrison Burton last week or with Austin Cindric several weeks ago. I just don't see one of those guys stepping up and getting a win. But I think Chastain could. So he's the guy I'm watching that's outside of the playoff spot right now. And we'll see if he can find his way, sneak his way into the playoffs here at the end as well. So next week's program, we're going to be heavy NFL. We'll definitely talk college football as well. And we're going to have a heavy racing segment as well as we talk about the playoffs, preview the playoffs, and all that kind of stuff too. So tune in next week for a lot of NASCAR talk, along with a lot of NFL and college football talk also. Dad, anything else that you want to cover tonight before we sign off?
Nope, I think that'll do it. Like I said, it'd be a good weekend to start off with college football. Like I said, it's actually already started tonight, and I'm really excited about the NFL season starting. So,
yeah, and we got two fantasy drafts. We got one Friday and one Monday. So we got that going on. I'm going to be a guest on a podcast next week called Topper Talk. It's a Western Kentucky podcast. I'll be on there previewing the Eastern Kentucky game. We will have a show Sunday night. That'll be the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball show, talking about all things fantasy baseball as we head into the playoffs there. And then sometime next week, I don't know when yet, we are going to have a local hour, and we'll be recapping Mississippi State for EKU and previewing Western Kentucky. Like I said, our plan is going to be doing it on Sunday nights, but they're traveling back from Mississippi State on Sunday, and I'm not sure we're going to get it in Sunday night. And then Monday night, who knows? I have no clue what's going to happen this weekend. So some point we're going to have a local hour this week, and it's going to be phenomenal when we do. Check out Righteous Felon Jerky. If you haven't yet, I'm telling you, you're missing out. RighteousFelon.com. Use the promo code STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. Follow us on social media at Sports Stove. We're going to post all the information about when the shows are coming out, all that kind of stuff as well. Because right now, there's just a lot going on schedule-wise that we're trying to get the shows in every week. And we try to be consistent with when we're putting them out, but sometimes that doesn't work. The plan is next Wednesday, me and Dad will be back right here to preview the NFL Week 1 and get our picks in. And make sure you go on Twitter and check it out. You're going to find the place that you can sign up for the Pick'em contest. We'll keep that all throughout the year. and you get points for everyone you pick correctly. So it's going to be a great time. Check it out on @SportsStove on Twitter. I think that's it. All right. Very good. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's edition of the Sports Stove podcast. Enjoy football. Until next time, we'll see you around the sports.